DOJ is going to obfuscate? No, of course not. Yeah, this is crazy. This is what you do when an agency doesn't cooperate with Congress. You hold them in contempt. You know, when Waxman was in charge of the Government Oversight and Reform Committee, he had no problem threatening to do it. Judiciary Committee held a couple of the Bush people in contempt of Congress. It's certainly not unprecedented. And the DOJ isn't cooperating with us. What do you want us to do?
Yep. And, I was just talking with Congressman Gozer. He said the same thing. He said, you know what? Enough is enough. We need to move on now. Why wait?
Oh, listen, we've been patient and we've been accommodating. We've said if there are things they don't want to release because they're affect ongoing investigations or methods and procedure, we'll look at those in a confidential setting. We're trying to be accommodative of their needs, but they're just stonewalling.
Yeah. And the DOJ is saying that, that this will damage relations between the executive and legislative branches. Damage relations?
There are two co-equal branches of government created by our founding fathers to have a natural tension between them. The system is working as designed to keep one part of the government from taking too much power.
Mm-hmm. But isn't this administration also one that doesn't really respect the checks and balances that were put there that you're talking about by our founding fathers?
I think that's absolutely correct. Yeah, I don't think our founding fathers ever envisioned a president who would have so little respect for the Constitution and the laws and the traditions that this government was founded on. He was a constitutional law professor, and he said the Supreme Court shouldn't be looking at Obamacare. If I'd paid tuition to take that class, I'd want my money back. That's been established constitutional law for years. He's working around Congress time and time again through these executive agencies. What Congress won't do, he does by executive fiat, using agencies like Fish and Wildlife, the ATF, Health and Human Services, and quite frankly, the Justice Department. I think this Fast and Furious all stem from a desire to create a problem that would create a crisis that would require tighter gun regulations. When that backfired and there wasn't an outcry for more gun laws, he had ATF come out and say, look, if you're in a border state and you're buying multiple long guns, you got to report it. That was done entirely by the executive agencies without a single act of Congress, and it's just chewing up Second Amendment rights.
Yep, and they're still pushing it.
Absolutely. If I were to go out and buy a gun for myself, my wife, and daughters, I'd be 4 guns. I'd get written up as a straw purchaser for narco-terrorists.
Yeah, and it's amazing because you've got the Deputy Attorney General, James Cole, saying, he said, hey, this is not a cover-up. And he's talking about how the lack of governments that show high-level discussion about the tactics that were used in Fast and Furious makes it clear, it proves that this all came out of Arizona, not out of Washington, D.C.
Prove it. Let us see the documents.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
And how can you say it's not a cover-up when one of the lines in the sand that the Justice Department has drawn is no emails will be released after the date the congressional investigation started? Well, that's when the cover-up would have started.
And just like you said, if the documents aren't there to show that there was top leadership involved, then what the heck? Why don't you just give them to us so we can see for ourselves?
These folks work for the taxpayers. They need to come clean. As ticked off as we are at the GSA for the Las Vegas party on taxpayer dollars, they came clean.
And the DOJ keeps saying, they use every adjective that you can think of, the ones at least we've heard them use. Inappropriate, unprecedented. They say, no other administration has done this when it comes to refusing to turn over documents.
I mean, this is a constant struggle between the executive and the legislative branch. I mean, I remember growing up watching this going on with Nixon.
Mm-hmm. But the bottom line, too, on this is we have a dead Border Patrol agent, don't we?
We do, and his family wants answers. His family deserves answers. And, the number of dead in Mexico, I'm sure, is much larger than one.
Mm. And if you let this go another month and another month, you think it's going to change? You think you'll get any more documents that you want to see?
I think we need to go ahead and proceed with the contempt of Congress, and I think it's just a matter of getting the ducks in a row over here. I think there's some folks over here on the Hill that say, well, this will be perceived as a political attack on the president and his administration. Well, if it were a political deal, we wouldn't be doing it now. We'd be waiting until September or October when it's closer to the election. Mm-hmm. You know, we're trying to get this dealt with and make sure that something like this doesn't happen again or isn't still going on somewhere.
Mm-hmm. And you've got the people still involved, still sitting in office in some places.
And the whistleblowers starting to be retaliated against.
Mm-hmm. And that's a big concern.
It is. You know, a lot of what we do in the Government Oversight and Reform Committee is based on whistleblowers contacting us either directly or through our website, oversight.house.gov, and saying, hey, look, this shouldn't be happening.
Yep, and these were ATF agents that knew it was wrong from the start and feared the worst, and look what happened.
Yep.
So I've got to ask you, you say ducks in a row. Do you think House Speaker John Boehner, there's some mixed reports about this, about, you know, he isn't 100% behind moving forward with these contempt charges. Do you have any idea where that comes in?
I have not spoken to Speaker Boehner on that directly. All I'm getting is a scuttlebutt, but I do think he's not going to want to go forward with it unless he thinks we've got the votes or close enough to getting the votes. So, I mean, I think that's a legitimate concern. We don't want to go ahead and bring contempt of Congress up if we don't have the votes to actually pass it.